Hi there everyone, Craddock here. Here today I have a very sweet build for you. This is a Firebird's Fire Twister build. As you can see here, our primary mode of damage is we're just going to be manually casting those twisters. We have quite a bit of defense in this build to make up for the fact that Firebirds doesn't give any defense, but it's still a very versatile build, more mobile than you would see in the past season's arcane DMO twister setup. It's not going to require quite as much positioning for twister stacks because those are a little bit harder to manage, but it's very fun, I think. So let me take you over and we'll just look at the gear and skills here. So here we are in town. First thing about this build you'll want to keep in mind is that I did put a few items that are more defensive in nature. You could swap those out and go for a more offensive setup, and I'll list those swaps as I go along. So here are the skills. This is Firebird, so all of our attacks are going to be fire based. Here's the gear. Firebirds, remember it now does a fairly constant amount of damage, 2000% multiplier when you have at least one elite burning, and every enemy after that is 40%. So you can imagine if you've got a large group of enemies, you will do tremendous amounts of damage, especially when your 4-set procs and continues to burn enemies. So that's the whole point of this build, is sort of to clump together enemies, burn down the elites, and get all those progress orbs. Now our main damaging attack is Gale Force. Gale Force gives a little bit of extra fire damage. We have a lot of fire damage in this build. We got the fire damage from the source, of Firebird source. We got the fire damage on our bracer. Theoretically I should have fire damage here, but you get the point. We've got a lot of fire damage in this build to up our overall damage. We're using a lot of unique things for defense. We've got Explosive Blast with the Orb of Infinite Depth in the cube, gives us a lot of damage reduction. You do have to position yourself so that you are hitting enemies with this. It is very low cooldown, so you have to watch it and manage it, but it does give a hefty defensive buff. Now other defensive bonuses include Unity. I've placed it in the cube. It gives flat 50%. We've got Halo of Arlise here, gives melee damage reduction, and Prox Frost Nova, which will in turn gives additional damage reduction through our Ancient Parthan Defenders. We also have the Endless Walk, so while we're moving at least we will get damage reduction. It also gives a lot of damage while we're standing still. Since we're going to be attacking theoretically when we're still, this will give us a nice damage bonus. And a couple of other things would give us defense. Isolated Blur, which gives us passive damage reduction, and we also have Unwavering Will. So while we're standing still, we get a lot of armor and defense from all resistance. So these are two big passives that you're likely going to want. You could swap one of these out for Audacity for some additional damage, but I found that I wasn't always within close range, so this benefit wasn't really realized. This will help out tremendously on Rift bosses though, so something to consider there. Overall, I found Conflagration to be a much bigger bonus, and you'll find we've got a lot of crit in this build, a lot of crit hit damage. This is a huge bonus, especially since it's more of a mid-range build. Other things to note, the Ice Armor goes along with our Ancient Parthans, and our Halo of Arlise gives us a lot of armor. The other two big things is when we teleport, when we're moving around, we will get a little bit of extra damage reduction from Safe Passage. And we have a nifty spell here. We are sliding Slow Time. You notice I don't have any rune selected. That's because we're wearing Crown of the Primus. This gives us all the effects of Slow Time. Let me go over this real quick. You get Time Shell, so the the slow effect of the slow time is increased. The cooldown reduction right here doesn't really matter because we've slotted illusionist, so when we're taking damage this will proc and allow us to recast slow time and teleport. We have exhaustion. This is the big one. It reduces damage that enemies do to us while they're within the slow time. Enemies will also take more damage. We have a nice stun here. This is especially good for Rift Guardians. And here, this is really important. The attack speed while we're within the bubble is increased. This is really good because it allows us to drop attack speed from possibly even our weapon. So it gives us a lot more options on gearing. And so you may be wondering, well, why did I wear the Crown of the Primus here? Well, the answer is for resource. The only way to get enough affixes for defense and enough damage through affixes in this build, especially with the Firebirds, is to get extra resource through other means, and I found this to be a very good setup. So we've got the 4 APOC on our source. We also have 4 on our helmet because this is a wizard's hat. It will allow extra arcane power and crit. So we have 8 arcane power and crit in addition with magic weapon conduit, and we also put cinder coat in the cube. You don't have to have any other means of resource cost reduction or anything like that. Very flexible sort of setup. It allows you to cast even for single target Rift Guardians. There will be some gap and you won't be able to continually cast, but it's a lot more solid than I've seen in any other setup, especially for setups that are like past season for Arcane Twister. So one other thing you could potentially do is swap out Inspire on the Templar for Guardian. This would give you an additional heal. It is a knockback though, so it's really your preference for this. One other thing you could potentially do to get more damage would be to use the Cinder Coat instead. This would give you a fire damage affix, but you would lose a lot of resources. In my opinion, this is the more solid setup. The best option for damage, in my opinion, is actually just to swap in the Convention of Elements in place of Unity. So you'd keep Halo of Arlis, and you'd use Convention of Elements either in the cube or wear it if you have a good one. But this would be a huge increase in damage. So this is also a great option. You may be wondering, well, why the hell are you using the Firebird source? Wouldn't like cubing another weapon be better? You know, it's sort of, it may not be obvious at first, but the fire damage here is quite a big boost of damage. It's very efficient, especially since you're able to cube another piece of armor or wear another piece of armor due to using this source. In this case, I'm using Crown of the Primus. Crown of the Primus is the most efficient use of this armor slot, in my opinion at least. We're getting so much, as mentioned before. We're getting attack speed, we're getting damage reduction, extra damage. All this is coming through this spell. Another thing you want to note with the slow time is you get attack speed reduction on enemies. So this combined with your follower's Thunder Fury is very big, especially for Rift Guardians. They will attack so much slower to give you a lot more survivability, which is dearly needed for Firebirds, and it's quite nice. So another thing to note with the slow time is that you can use it to your advantage to proc the Bandit Trapped at range or mid-range, and it'll allow the flow of combat becomes a lot more fluid because you can proc the multiplicative bonus of the Bandit of the Trapped from a little bit of farther away. In addition, remember we've got the Oculus Ring that's going to proc from our follower just as it would as if we were wearing it. It's almost like a free ring. You should put it on your follower, use it. Now, basically how the flow of combat works when you're going, say you see an Oculus Ring over near here, but your enemies are back over yonder, well, you just throw a slow time up, it procs your Bane of the Trapped, enemies are still slowed, they still, are going to deal less damage. If it's a range pack, this is basically how you're probably going to have to combat them and kill them quicker, because you're not going to be able to get them within a Twister stack anyway. So this is very nice and very fluid. Now, other legendary gems that we are using include Esoteric Alteration, highly needed for Firebirds. I wouldn't really swap this out for anything else. It reduces your toughness so much if you don't use this gem. Use it. Increases your resistances significantly, so you can see here, even though I've got only about 2k resistances, this will let me survive a lot longer. Bane of the Stricken, ticks, extra damage, very big for Rift Guardians, since it's very hard to hit Rift Guardians with the Twisters unless you can corner them. So this is a huge bonus. It's fairly pretty much required, in my opinion, once you get to higher and greater rifts. So these are the 3 gems you want. I wouldn't really deviate and put any other gems in these slots. So let's quickly go over the affixes. As you can see here, this is a high crit build. We have a lot of crit, especially from our conflagration passive, gives an extra 6, so you can have up to 70% with this build. It's very nice. A lot of crit hit damage here, especially since we're wearing the Witching Hour. So this will give us the attack speed breakpoint we're looking for, and it'll also give us extra crit hit damage. Now, I found that 1 roll on the belt is enough, especially with the slow time rune that gives extra attack speed. You won't even necessarily need an attack speed roll on your weapon, which is one of the powerful things about this build. If you do opt, you can opt for attack speed on your weapon in place of vitality, and it will up you a couple of breakpoints for your twister speed, but I didn't feel like I needed it, so vitality is the way to go here, especially since you can't roll vitality on your source. I felt it's kind of needed to survive, so anyway, it feels better, go with it. Anyway, we also have a lot of fire damage in this build, as mentioned, so we got the 3 rolls here. You also have fire damage from your primary spell. Remember that Gale Force will give you 15%, so that's very nice. So basically what you're looking for is on weapon, you want percent damage, int, vitality, something like this. For your source, you're definitely going to want fire damage with arcane power on crit, int, and crit. For your boots, int, armor, and you're also going to want energy twister damage. These are the rolls you want. For pants, int, armor. This is what you want. Remember that we want secondary resists on all your gear here. So for your belt, likely you just want, as seen here, invite, attack speed, crit hit damage. For your rings are, you have a little bit of option here. You could opt, instead of wearing the halo, you could wear the unity instead and get a little bit of damage to elites. For this particular build, I felt that the area damage from Halo of Arlis was better, so I am wearing the Halo of Arlis for that extra area damage, but you also want crit and crit hit damage. We have the Compass Rose here. You want int, area damage, crit, and crit hit damage, so no movement speed. For your amulet, you want fire damage, crit hit damage. Also remember sockets on all jewelry. For your bracer, fire, int, crit. Your chest piece and your helmet are a little bit, you can swap the rolls around here a little bit. For your chest, you want int, and in the perfect world, you would put life percent on here. And that's only if your helmet is perfectly rolled as well. A perfectly rolled helmet would have int, vitality, crit, and arcane power on crit. Now, with that setup, since you have the vitality here, rolling life percent here actually turns out slightly better toughness-wise. But if you do not have the perfect helmet, kind of like mine, you have a socket with an amethyst in it, then armors is the better choice here. You could also opt for a little bit more damage instead for energy twister damage here. So instead of the socket, as you see on my helmet, just put energy twister damage. Would reduce your toughness quite a bit though, so I don't advise it. But for shoulder, looking for invite, life percent, and area damage, these are the ones you want. Don't deviate from that too much. For your gloves, invite, crit hit damage. I think that's it for this build, so I want to thank you for watching, and I'll take it over to the rest of the Rift. I'm very excited about this build. It's very fun to play, and I hope you enjoy it too.